Speakers will inform the Christian clergy about their legal rights, both in and out of the church. The growing need to unite in defense of First Amendment protected speech and religious freedom, including freedom of conscience. The latest federal mandates to faith-based organizations regarding the federal health care law will also be discussed. And I want you to remember this. Obama is saying today that he's going to back down and he's going to compromise. He has no authority to compromise on something he had no constitutional authority to do in the first place. And this is not an issue about Catholics. It's not an issue about birth control. The media is trying to denigrate it to the point where it's just an issue over birth control. It is about religious freedom and liberty that's protected under the First Amendment. And I will tell you this, if we don't get around this and unite, they're coming after you in your churches. Because anytime the federal government can tell a pastor, can tell a church what they can and can't do, they can and cannot do, we have way crossed the line. So I'm just telling you, we have some work to do, and please be in prayer about it. Now, we heard this week that state property values are up. The state needs some money, so property values are going up. I also want you to know that the Texas Medicaid's dental program, listen to this. Did you know that you're paying for orthodontics? There's a Medicaid fraud case that's being looked at, I don't know how closely, but taxpayers in Texas spent $100 million on braces in 2008, $140 million in 2009, $184 million in 2010. And do you want a comparison? That's Texas. Do you know what California spends? $19.5 million, and we just spent $140. Do you understand? I mean, we have gone over the bend in Texas, and we've got a bunch of politicians who tell you everything is just A-okay. Those men and women need to go. Now, an initiative that we're going to talk about pretty soon, and Ernie Clark is helping me with this. So we want to start an initiative and petition the City Council of Tyler to deal with issues of illegal immigration. And this is an idea that came from some folks that have been fighting this issue for a very long time in Houston. They're starting a petition, and you petition a home rule city to put an ordinance in place that says that the city will not do business with any contractor or subcontractor or any vendor that does not use a verification process to ensure that their employees are legal residents or citizens of the United States. It also sets free your local law enforcement to do the immigration and customs enforcement checks. And I guess you all saw the headlines in the Tyler paper that the Sheriff's Department had picked up someone who was a criminal alien, and he was told by the state, they were told by the State Department to let him go. So we're going to see if we can get the city of Tyler to enact ordinances like this, and if they won't, then we're going to try a petition drive, and it takes thousands of signatures to put that on a ballot, friends. But if you can't get the federal government to listen to you, and you can't get the state to listen to you, it's time for we the people to do what we can at the local level. Yesterday was the 3-year anniversary of Grassroots America, We the People. Amen. Thanks to you, we've been able to do a lot of important things, and you know them. I'm not going to go down the list of them. But I'll tell you this, there's a wise saying that says, if it is to be, it is up to me. But as it applies to Grassroots America, We the People, if it is to be, it is up to us. all of us, to do what we can to fight for the country that we love. And we're doing an important part of that today. We're going to hear from a candidate. And vetting candidates is extremely important. It should never, ever, ever be, again, for any local office, statewide office, federal office, that it's a name that you recognize on the ballot. It can never be that Joe's just a nice old guy, or I like to play golf with him. He's a nice guy and to see him on the golf course. Well, Joe might be a nice guy to play golf with or to play cards with, to have coffee with, but Joe might not be the guy that should be in charge of your money and your freedom. So today we're going to hear from a gentleman who's running for the Texas State Board of Education. The Texas State Board of Education is composed of 15 members elected from roughly equal populous State Board of Education districts, and they are huge districts. The board adopts rules and establishes policies that govern a wide range of educational programs and services provided by Texas public schools. The Commissioner of Education serves as Chief Executive Officer of the board and supervises the administration of board rules through the Texas Education Agency. Together, the State Board of Education, the Commissioner, and the agency facilitate the operation of a vast public school system consisting of 1,237 school districts and charter schools, more than 8,400 campuses, more than 659,000 educators and other employees, and more than 4.8 million school children. As part of its efforts to provide the best possible education to public school students, the board designates and mandates instruction in the knowledge and skills that are essential to a well-balanced curriculum. It also reviews and adopts instructional materials based on those curriculum standards. Its other important activity is to oversee the investment of the permanent school fund and approves the creation of charter schools. It adopts regulations and standards for the operation of adult education programs provided by public school districts, junior colleges, and universities. This is a very important position. I think you all are well acquainted with the fights we've had in Texas over textbooks. And I will tell you that there's a group of politicians, both Democrats and Republicans, who want to make the State Board of Education an appointed body, not an elected body, because they don't want constitutional conservatives to hold that office. They are scared to death of constitutional conservatives who want traditional Judeo-Christian history accurately depicted in textbooks. So without further ado, Mr. Randy Stevenson is going to come before you, and he's going to tell you why he's running for the State Board of Education. And then you get your questions ready for Mr. Stevenson. Please turn off cell phones. Come on, Randy.
Good morning. Well, this has been a pretty busy week, and I want to share this with you. In 36 hours, I visited 7 cities and 7 meetings, and I had to recover. But you know what's interesting is I was flying up and down these Texas highways, and I swear I saw Joanne going too. I'm just now doing what she does, and congratulations on 3 years. Let's give her an applause for this. Because it is work. Travel is hard. Yes. Okay. If that happens again, please correct me. Feel free. Well, thank you for allowing me to be here today. My name is Randy Stevenson. My wife Shannon is here, and she's a big part of this. And it's a true commitment. We decided last summer that it was time for someone to do something again, and I wound up filing to run for State Board of Education. You're aware of what the board does and what it is. And this isn't the first go-around for me. In 1994, I ran for the same position then and won. In 1994, we had a socialist Democrat in the White House. We had rampant what is the term? Not rampant sex education, out of control sex education. Textbooks were not being truthful in our history. We hadn't purchased spelling books in 6.5 years. I mean, we had creative spelling then, and if a child wanted to spell a word, snake, for example, S-N-A-K, without the E at the end, that was okay. It's creative spelling. And in some districts, the teachers were prohibited from correcting that. We had to fight during my 4 years to keep the multiplication tables a part of the curriculum, because after all, kids have calculators, and that's cruel rote memorization to force those kids to learn what 2 times 2 is. And so I fought those battles 4 years ago, and I felt like that we pretty much achieved what I set out to achieve during my 4 years. I had small kids, a growing business that needed attention. The meetings then were every month for at least a week or more, every month carved out of our time in Austin. And Don McElroy ran in my place. Don has become a very good friend. He's a Christian. He's a dentist. He served on the board for 12 years. He was chairman of the board. And then the media really blew this last social studies go-around we had a couple of years ago, you may have read about, and blew everything out of proportion and made it appear like he was trying to force creation to be taught in science, in being conflicted with the law. And Tom Ratliff, your current board member, took advantage of this with the media and beat him by, I think, 445 votes just a little over a year ago. Then they drew the district lines. Tom won a 2-year seat because everyone has to rerun. And Don said immediately, I will run again, and he would have won, but they conveniently carved him out of the district. And that's when I was made aware that we have now carved in. So you have a State Board of Education member that you didn't vote for, and I don't know that you would vote for him. His name is Tom Ratliff. He's a lobbyist. He is a registered, paid, professional lobbyist in Austin, Texas. Now, I have a problem with ex-congressmen and senators and people of influence becoming a lobbyist after they serve and using their influence to make someone else's pocketbook get a little fatter, whether or not it's good for the people. But folks, we've got a guy that is a lobbyist that is holding public office. And he says that the Attorney General and the DA down in Travis County all approved him. That's not true. That story is not over yet. The Attorney General, in fact, did uphold the law that a person who is a lobbyist with any conflict of interest may not serve, is ineligible to serve on the State Board of Education. My opponent, Tom Ratliff, says he's modified his contracts with some letters, and he now no longer has a conflict of interest, although he's had to recuse himself from votes this past year because of the conflict. So that really is what got my attention. We're all concerned about our nation, and you know, a person can only do what they can do, and really this is one thing that Randy Stevenson, perhaps with God's blessing, can go to Austin and address. And that's the one thing I can do to help our nation, to help our state. That's what I'm trying to do. So, 3 issues. And by the way, everything I talk about, I will talk about. I would have said with him here, I think the Hideaway Lake people were a little rough on him last week. I hope he doesn't have family issues, but I really look forward to the times. We've gone head-to-head 3 or 4 times, and I like to be there when he speaks because I can correct him, if you know what I mean. So, 3 things that are important that I want to run with. Now, I'm talking over and above the textbook battles, being a consistent, conservative voice for East Texas parents on the state board. I will do that. That's a no-brainer. I've been there before. I fought the battles. I know what they are. And I recognize there are always new ways for the same issues to come about, because the liberals are they're more persistent now than they were 18 years ago, it seems. 3 things, though, that I want to really carry forward and fight, the 3 issues that I see as being critical. Number 1 is curriculum. Right now, we all talk about Obamacare, but Americans don't realize that the Obama administration is slowly and quietly under the radar screen taking over schools on a national level. 45 states have signed off on it. When you sign off as a state to the core curriculum standards, you're basically signing away your soul as a state. You're signing away your rights to control and manage your state's educational system. Now, I am proud to say that our governor, although he may not be the best presidential debater, he does believe in states' rights, and he and our Commissioner of Education, Robert Scott, take the time to write him a letter and thank him. He is a wonderful man, a Christian man, an attorney, and he was a young guy hanging around the TEA when I was there before, and now he's the Commissioner of Education. He pulled those core curriculum standards apart. He pulled the race to the top money that the Obama administration is attaching to it to lure states and school districts into it. And he told the governor, we can't do this. And they went to Washington and told the Obama administration, no thank you, we don't want your money. Texas will continue to control Texas schools. And I thank him for that. Now, my opponent, the people he runs with, are in opposition to that. They want the national curriculum standards, the core curriculum standards. I will, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected to the board, I'll do everything I can do to continue to allow Texas to maintain control of their curriculum. And by the way, they've made some great gains. Beginning in 2008, the board started going back and rewriting the curriculum at a grade level, course specific, moving away from these exams that the teachers are overwhelmed with. And we've got kind of a new system in progress. We need to continue to the work. And that has really brought a battle. It's drawn a battle line because the liberals don't want that. It is actually opposite of what the national core curriculum standards are. And I don't mean to be vague, but I can't go into details here. But the national core curriculum standards are vague, and they will in effect continue to dumb down our nation, our kids, okay? And the Texas State Board of Education, the 6 conservatives with a conservative Commissioner of Education and the backing of our governor have been able to make some wonderful gains. Now, the liberals, the NEA, the TSTA, the Texas Freedom Network, which was founded by Cecile Richards. Her mother was Ann Richards. She later went on to become Planned Parenthood president. That group, those groups all supported financially, and if you Google and read, they're supporting my opponent. Okay, they like him. They also have fielded a left-wing, radical, in my opinion, candidate to run against every conservative on the board. They have fielded it. They're going to run as Republicans, and they're going to be financed by these groups. They want to take over the board, and we know why. They want us to go with the national program. So, as your state board member, I will do my best to inform Texans, and I will do my best as a board member to stop that and to continue to allow Texas to be independent and maintain state control of its educational system. This is critical, folks. Education is 60% of our budget in this state. We talk about all the money that the government is grabbing by controlling the medical industry. Just imagine the educational industry is huge, and they're quietly doing this. Second thing, I want to work to help empower and embrace and encourage our teachers. Folks, they are the ones in the battlefield. They're the ones, I can't imagine being in a room with 25 kids 8 hours per day, every day. I would go nuts. But not only are they doing that because they love kids and they love what they're doing and they have a mission, they are doing that for not a lot of money, not a lot of support, and not a lot of help from our federal and state government. In fact, we burden them. I think we need to recognize that our teachers are just like the soldiers in foreign lands. And we talk about needing more boots on the ground, folks. We need more teachers in the classroom. That's where our money needs to go to, and we need to help our teachers. Less than 50 cents out of every salary dollar in Texas shows up in the classroom. I'm talking salaries. 49 cents out of every salary dollar is with a teacher. The rest is with admin. Not really entirely the fault of the superintendents, because they have so much paperwork put on them by the federal and the state government. I mean, that needs to be cleaned up. But we have a problem there. We don't have enough teachers. Can you imagine having, for every soldier out in the field, you had a general? Or you had or a manufacturing plant. You have people out there actually producing something. For every person producing, you have someone sitting in office. It sounds kind of like our federal government, doesn't it? But in the tax situation. But I really want to be a voice for the teachers, not the teachers' unions, not the leadership of the teachers' associations, for the ladies and for the men that are in the classroom taking care of our children and grandchildren. We need to help them. The third thing, only about 50% of the kids, our kids that graduate from Texas high schools, ever set foot in a college classroom. 50%. And yet everything we do in our public schools is gearing all of our kids to college. And so what are we doing for those kids? I mean, if you're not going to college because you don't have the ability or the desire or the financial means, or maybe you're just not really ready for it, you know? What does a high school diploma get a kid today? I think it might get you a minimum wage job at Walmart, maybe, or Chick-fil-A. I don't think we're doing enough for those kids. Half of our future society that graduates from high school have nothing, in my opinion, to show for it other than a piece of paper in a sense of accomplishment, and that's a lot. But I feel like we need to go back and take another look at what we're doing. I believe we need to offer more technical training programs, computer programs. I think we need to offer more vocational programs. We need to help our kids that know they're not going to school to be ready to enter into the workforce. And we have the assets to do it. I'm not talking about every school district building a vocational high school, but we have the assets here in Texas. Our junior colleges and community colleges are doing a great job. If you want to be an LVN or an RN or a police officer, or if you want to be a certified pipeline welder or an electrician or work on be an HVAC, air conditioning and heating certified certified professional, okay? You can go to Tyler Junior College and do that. And by the way, we're spending $10,500. I heard another number. I heard it was over $11,000. I've got to check that out. But we're spending well over $10,000 per year to send these kids to high school that a lot of them could care less about. And that's about twice what it would cost to send them to college. We could send them to Tyler Junior College for $4,000 or $5,000 per year. We have the assets. We need to merge the programs. And really, as I go around talking about this, I'm finding that the professionals in the field and those in Austin that really do care, that they recognize this, and there are movements to do that. And so I really want to support that. Those are half of our kids. I think, can you imagine growing up, not knowing your daddy, your big brother's in jail, your mother may be on welfare, or maybe she's working 3 jobs trying to put food on the table. Do you talk about going to college in that setting? I don't think you do. My daughter taught school for 5 years, 2 years in Oklahoma in a very poor district. Those kids talked about quitting school when they turned 16. They talked about joining gangs. They didn't have a vision of a future or a hope of a future. And so I think if we go to those kids and encourage them to continue with their education and get to the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade level, that they will be able to learn some things that will help them be able to have a family and have a job and buy a home and be productive. I think most people want that. I think we would see our criminal cost in this state, our prosecution cost, and our penitentiary cost. I think we would see that drop. I think we would see drug abuse drop. You know, the word says without a vision, the people will perish. And I don't think we're giving these kids a vision. And I've spoken with young people. I've spoken with parents. I've spoken with older people. And you know what? This resonates. People know it's right. I've got a teacher who's a friend. And she said, you know, I teach out here, and in my 4th grade class, we have signs in our classroom about Boston College. We have the pennant, we have all their degrees, and we have pictures of their football teams and all that. And she said, 3/4 of my kids never spoke English until they went to kindergarten. She said, you know, in my classroom is just one. Every class had to adopt a college. She said, Randy, do you know anyone that even went to Boston College from this area? I have to say I didn't. I mean, we don't have pictures like when I was a kid of a fireman, a policeman, a guy working in a plant running a machine, a doctor, you know, a teacher, all the different professions. All we do is talk about college, and I think we're setting ourselves up for failure. So Tom Pocken is endorsing me. He is over the Texas Workforce Commission. He worked with Ronald Reagan's staff. He was head of the Republican Party of Texas. And I think the momentum is building for this. He has endorsed me because of this issue. He knows the problem. Folks, let me say this. We represent America, 5% of the world's population, but we consume 25% of the world's energy. And so what do we hear? Shame on you, Americans. You're wasteful, you're greedy, you're selfish. But do you know that we produce over 27% of the world's GDP? We're the most productive society in the world. We are still kicking tail. I don't know why we have this concept, this mindset that we're giving everything to China. Now they're looking for countries in Africa. I think train up a workforce and get it back. Labor is just one component, but I've had business people tell me they'd like to expand, but they can't find a workforce. So we need to do something for those kids. Those are my 3 issues that I'll really press forward among all the other battles and things that come up. And I'd like to read something. Do I have a few more minutes? I believe, I served in the Army. I served in the service. I love our country. I think that the most important thing our federal government is supposed to do is to protect our borders, to protect our nation. I think the second most important thing we need to do in America is educate the next generation. I believe our founding fathers felt that as well. I'm sorry, I realize you may not have been, can you hear me now? Noah Webster, he was known as the schoolmaster of the nation. He was a soldier in the Revolutionary War. He served in the Connecticut General Assembly for 9 terms, in the legislature of Massachusetts for 3. He served as a judge. He was responsible for Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution. He was a founding father. He wrote the American Spelling Book, and we all know what Webster's dictionary is. Here's what he had to say. For this reason, society requires that the education of youth should be watched with the most scrupulous attention. Education, in a great measure, forms the moral characters of men, and morals are the basis of government. Education should therefore be the first care of a legislature, not merely the institution of schools, but the furnishing of them with the best men for teachers. A good system of education should be the first article in the Code of Political Regulations, for it is much easier to introduce and establish an effectual system for preserving morals than to correct by penal statutes the ill effects of a bad system. I'm in agreement. Folks, we need to get involved with our education. In this race that I'm in, first of all, the office pays nothing, and I'm glad. I'm very happy for that, because I'm serving because I care. But it is hard to get the attention of the voters for the school board, for the State Board of Education. I think it's so critical. Please help me spread the word. Please help me. When you get emails, send them to everyone in your email, in your computer. I don't care if they live in Colorado. They need to know what's going on, and help me get the word out. I have 31 counties to cover. You've got this sheet here. You can see the district. You can see some of the differences between me and my opponent, and I would just appreciate your help. I want to do this. I want to serve. If we don't do this and the liberals take over the board, we've got the national school system looking at us just like we have Obamacare today. We've got to get in there and fight and take it back. Real quick, I want to hit 6 little differences between me and my opponent. I want to go into politics again to serve. My opponent has spent his life in politics for money. It's his profession. I want to represent the teachers in the classroom. He represents the teacher unions. I want to go and represent the parents and the people. He represents corporate clients. I'm for state control. He's for national control. I support the Islam resolution, which was a resolution passed in 2009. I've got copies. I'll put a few up here if you want them. Passed in 2009, where the board was seeing pro-Islamic rhetoric in the textbooks and anti-Christian rhetoric in the textbooks. And they said, look, if any of that comes up, religion comes up, we at least want equal treatment. I support that. My opponent opposes that. He had no problem with those textbooks. I'm a conservative. He's not a conservative. Go to my website, randystevenson.org. I have an 8-minute radio interview where he explains on the radio the fact that he is not a conservative. He's proud of it. So the choice is clear. Do you want a conservative or do you want a moderate? And last of all, I'm not a lobbyist. I'm a dad, and I'm an independent businessman. He is a professional lobbyist, and I have an issue with that. So I would appreciate your help. I'd appreciate your vote, and we would appreciate your prayers. Randy Stevenson, State Board of Education. Thank you.
Joanne made a really big mistake, and I forgot Natalie over here. Natalie needs to make an announcement to the group. And Natalie, I am so sorry. From now on, this is just a rule. If you need to speak, you come get on stage and stand next to me, okay? All right, everybody.
Hello. Okay, if you guys could divert your attention to this half sheet of paper right quick. I want to remind you, first of all, who uses the internet to promote conservative values? Let me see your hands. Hi. Okay, I don't see enough hands. I'd like to see every single hand up here, okay? So I want to remind you that Saturday, yeah, double hands, that's good. Okay, so Saturday the 25th, we're having the social media workshop. It's free at UT Tyler, and I'm going to help you guys get set up with Facebook, Twitter, using your smartphone, so we can help you guys push conservative values. Okay, if we've got a lot of candidates that you guys are going to be seeing, you can help support those candidates by pushing information to your friends, acquaintances, and family on the internet. And it's my job to help you learn how to do that. And I want to help you, so let me serve you by doing that, okay? We need to help Joanne. Joanne's stressed, all these issues up here, but we need to be helping her by doing our own homework, okay? And the communications team is working very hard to make these resources available to you, and I'm going to help you utilize that with the internet. Okay, so now, can I see a show of hands? Who's going to come Saturday? You're thinking about it? Very good, okay. Email, social... What did I say?
February 25th.
February 25th, Saturday, February 25th, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Noon.
12 p.m. Yes, noon. Okay. Email social media at Grassroots at GAWTP.com. That information and that email address is on the website. Okay. And also, very quickly, that same day, we are showing Atlas Shrugged at UT Tyler. The event starts at 2 p.m. Okay, we're going to have a reception afterwards. If you recall, this is just part one. They haven't made, I don't know how many parts they'll end up making. That book is so long. But part one will be shown Saturday, February 25th at 2 p.m. We do have pre-sale tickets available. Tickets will be $5 to the general public. We are putting this in the paper, and it's open to Tyler and the surrounding areas. We know this has not been shown in Tyler, so we're hoping to have you with us. If you'd like to purchase a pre-sale tickets, they're only $3, and we're limiting those to 150. So the first 150 people, $3. Dr. Schwani, why don't you stand up real fast? Dr. Schwani has all the tickets. Slower next time. Okay, he's got the tickets. These are what the tickets look like. You will please hold on to these. This is what we'll have to see the day of the movie, and we will be selling these until Friday the 24th. We'll have them every Friday, so for the next 2 Fridays you can purchase the pre-sale tickets. Are there any questions? Okay, I hope to see you on the 25th, and you can spend all day with yours truly. Have a blessed day.
Okay, now I want to tell you that I really want everybody who is confused over social media, who doesn't know how to Facebook and all that, please, we need your help. So Natalie and some of the young students, the younger folks in Grassroots, are going to be very patient and help everybody learn how to do those things. Then the other thing is, I want you to go see Atlas Shrugged. It was in Tyler for a very short time. I went to a 9:30 p.m. showing. And for Joanne to go to a 9:30 p.m. showing and not go to sleep, I mean, if I'm still in a dark room, I'm going to sleep. I didn't. This movie is everything you will say to yourself, oh my goodness, this is happening right now. When I read Atlas Shrugged back in high school, I thought, shoot, land of the free, home of the brave, this will never happen. and my entire life I've seen it unfold. You need to see this movie. It's outstanding. Now, Randy, you are back on, and Patty's going to ask you the question.
First of all, thanks, Natalie. She reminded me of something. I set one of these on your tables. Please fill it out. Give me your email address. I will do two things. I will keep you apprised of the race, and then once elected, I'll do what I did when I was your state board member before. I will send out a newsletter and an update on what's going on. I will keep you posted. There's no budget for that, and I used to do it 2 or 3 times a year with out of my pocket. Now we can do it pretty much free over the internet. So fill this out for me. And there's a third reason. The left-wing people, they tend to get nasty in campaigns, and it's already started. I got something else on my desk yesterday. So I know the plan. I raised $5,300 as of January 1st towards my race, of which about 20% of that was my money, okay? The rest of it was from folks like you in the district. Tom Ratliff had raised $17,000 from his people in Austin. Not one dime came from the district. They were all big checks from I don't know who. His lobbyist clients, for sure, you can go online and check, and some of the unions and that kind of thing. I know the plan. It's called smear. And so they're going to do, I'm just telling you, you can read the blogs, and they're silly enough, they talk about it online. They're going to do a smear against me and other conservatives with mail-outs. There is nothing, my wife is right here, there's nothing I've done in the last 30 or 35 years as an adult that I won't discuss with any of you, okay? There's nothing hidden here. So when you hear something, let me know, let me address it, and be on my email list so I can tell people, because I know it's coming. It's already started, and some of you that have been following my campaign are aware of what's going on. And that one issue last week where I was accused of something, that's already been resolved. And the Texas Ethics Commission threw it in the trash, said it was bogus. So they're already starting, guys. Anyway, thank you.
Can y'all hear?
Fill this out.
Just so the new people know, we collect the cards and we ask all the questions. Should the Texas taxpayers fund the Turkish Islamic charter schools which are popping up all over Texas and the USA?
Well, I have a problem with that, okay? And I think it needs to be scrutinized for sure. But I don't know what the law says, but I do have a real problem with that issue. I know they're popping up, and yes, as a citizen, as an American, I have a problem with it. Problem is, all religions have to be treated equal, so I don't know if they would allow charter schools to be open that are Christian charter schools. I think not. But as an individual, no. And that's something I've been made very aware of and we'll look at. Do I support charter schools? Absolutely. Absolutely. But there's some serious questions about I think they're called the Harmony schools, whoever asked that question, that they're named Harmony schools and they're really owned and operated by Muslims, and I believe radical Muslims, and I think that needs to be looked into, and I believe it is under investigation. So as your state board member and as your friend and as a citizen here, I have a real problem with it, absolutely.
Who should have the final say over what the children in Texas public schools are taught in science and social studies classes? Washington bureaucrats, liberal experts from states like California, or local parents and local and state elected officials?
I don't have to answer that question, do I? Obviously, parents and locally elected officials who come from parents, from the citizens.
Why is HEB's Charles Butt such a large contributor to Joe Strauss and your opponent Thomas Ratliff?
Well, he's a lobbyist client of the Ratliffs. And by the way, Tom Ratliff, his father was Senator Bill Ratliff. So that's another issue. There's name recognition there. For a lot of people, it's a negative factor, but for a lot of people that vote, they're not real sure who it is. But the Ratliffs are big-time lobbyists. The father, Bill Ratliff, and his sons, and Butts is a client, HEB is a client, and they're contributing heavily. I'm not really sure. I think that there's another conflict of interest there, and actually we've got some people looking into it.
Is candidate Charles Clayton supported by the NEA?
I don't know. Charles Clayton is a board member out of Dallas, and I think he came out of the closet, did he not? Is that? Yeah, he came out of the closet just a few months ago, so there's a big race. I would assume he probably is. Couldn't answer that.
Should the State Board of Education be an appointed or an elected board, and why?
Obviously, an elected board. You know, it really is a thrill that we, citizens, can get involved and run for an office and have a voice in our government. And you know what? It really does work. It really does. When I served on the board, that was such an honor, and we did some really, really good things on the board. And we fought some really, really hard battles. But an elected board is mandatory, and they've been trying to rein in the state board for 20 years now, and they're slowly stripping away the authority of the state board. You see, Texas is one of 2 states that has a very strong state board of education. California is the other board. So the publishers and all the curriculum people, they go to California and they get their approval for textbooks and that kind of thing. Then they come over to Texas, and we're a little more conservative, so we require changes. That's where you have all the textbook debates and arguments and fights, because we want things changed, and we wind up with a conservative version. So the publishers typically have to publish 2 versions of most textbooks: the more liberal California version, the conservative Texas version, and the rest of the country has to choose from one of those 2. They don't have any say. So if the Texas State Board of Education is weakened, guess what we're going to get? We're going to get the liberal California version, because it's expensive to have 2 versions of textbooks. And my opponent, your board member, voted for Senate Bill, or he lobbied for Senate Bill 6 this past session, which greatly undermined the authority of the State Board of Education.
Have you ever felt your work in your private life was a conflict of interest with your work on the State Board of Education?
No, I never have. I didn't before, and I don't now. That's the really neat thing about this office. It's a non-paid position, totally volunteer. You go to Austin, you do your meetings, and you come home. And I tell people it's probably a lot easier than a local school board, because your next door neighbor is not in the, you know, it's a whole different set of issues. But no, ma'am, there's no conflict of interest.
Should the State Board of Education enforce the resolution to require textbooks publishers to present a fair and balanced and realistic view of Christianity and Islam?
Absolutely, and that's what that resolution was all about. The books were coming out so pro-Islam and anti-Christian, labeling Christians as being killers. It was terrible, and the board got sick of this, and so they passed this resolution, which my opponent criticizes and says the board didn't have any right to pass that. So I think, yes, at the very least, equal treatment.
This is a 3-part question, and I'm just going to ask one at a time to keep it simple. What is your position on bilingual education / dual language education?
Well, I haven't changed in 20 years. If my wife and I moved to Italy and we had children, I would expect them to learn Italian before they went into school, or as a part of their going into school. I think we're doing a disservice to those who do not speak English as their primary language to have dual education systems, to have the bilingual education to where they're not required to speak English. It shorts them in the long haul. So I'm against that, and it's not politically correct. It's an uphill battle. It's one of those things, doesn't it just make sense to take these kids and give them a year of English and then put them in? They may be a year behind, but then they can excel. It's crazy.
Do you think Texas should apply for waivers from No Child Left Behind?
No, I think that's going away, and Texas is really on a different path, and I think No Child Left Behind is on the way out. In fact, I saw something in the paper this morning that made that.
Why are bilingual teachers being paid more than monolingual teachers when the monolingual teachers have larger classes? What is your opinion on this?
Well, I don't think we should have bilingual education. So I don't really have an answer to that. I think there should be a transition. I think we're all on the same page. transition
This is a
to English.
three-part question, but I'm going to run it together and you'll understand why. Do you believe in Jesus? Do you believe in the U.S. Constitution? And if elected, will you use both?
Yes, yes, yes.
Coffee City is 4 miles from Frankston and 20 miles, give or take, from Brownsboro. Yet kids are bused to Brownsboro. Can school district lines be redrawn?
You know, that really is, and I'm not trying to sidestep that, but that is something, that is a legislative and local issue. I think it's crazy. I live just a couple of miles from here in the city of Tyler, but we're in another school district in another town. So, yeah, it's, and my child wanted to transfer schools when he was a junior and a senior, and we really couldn't do that. So I think it is kind of, I believe Leo Berman and some others are either working on a bill or have passed a bill to allow counties to consolidate. And, you know, I think the local areas should be able to dictate what they want to do, whether they have a county school system or they redraw the lines that make sense. But really, I'm not sidestepping it. That's really not an issue that I've studied because it's not, I really can't do much about that.
Would you support a school voucher system in Texas?
Okay, that's a good question. I believe parents, children, and educators should have as many options as possible. Homeschool is great, private schools are great, charter schools are great. Vouchers, I would have to see the entire program. In theory, do I think it's good? Would I support it as an American? Conceptually, absolutely. But I've seen what politicians do. I've seen how they pass bills that really create more problems, and I've yet to see a plan. I would have to see a plan because we don't want to gut what we have. We as taxpayers have assets here. We do have school systems, and we have a method of educating our kids. So, to answer that question, the popular thing in most rooms would be to say,